Welcome back to The Real Grind, guys. One of our episodes, we talked about friendship, and we have friends here in our episodes and our podcast. But Italo, do you know what is the best to have friends?
Having good friends, or
It's having a lawyer friend.
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And some people even say like, hey, if you don't have a couple lawsuits, that means you haven't made it tonight. This week, something funny happened on my Facebook. They created exactly replica of my account with everything on it, and started messaging a few of my folks. And then I got a screenshot and posted on my wall. And I was like, hey, this is somebody who hacked my account. And everybody's like, wow, now you really made it, right? Because people are copying you.
I was about to say, you know you've made it when people are actually copying your Facebook profile and making a fake one. I haven't gotten there yet. So if you're out there, please make a fake Facebook account for me so I feel special.
But today we have a super special guest here, and we can't wait to get started. Let's go.
Waking up to success, now we're getting it started. This is the real grind. Everything you've been wanting, building an empire, no question. Talking about real estate, investing, making the millions, no stopping. While we sip on gourmet coffee. The real grind, this is the real grind. Let's go.
He's an attorney with Horne and Associates in Dallas, Texas. He's been practicing law for the past 30 years. Purchased and remodeled and sold over 35 single-family homes, transacted and sold over $400 million in private mortgages, has built over 50-plus single-family homes, and he owns and manages hundreds of single-family rental properties. We welcome on the stage Mr. Scott Horne. Let's go. What's up, my brother? Thank you so much for coming here. I love your shirt.
Well, thank you. I got dressed up for you today.
Thank you very
As you can
much.
tell.
That's great.
You know, wore my good boots, everything else.
Right? Representing.
Yeah, you got it.
We had somebody on the show, and I was like, man, I was going to rent a boots, but I need to get a new pair of boots. I'm a little ashamed of my boots right now.
Well, I think if you had Eddie Speed on here not too long ago, he probably showed up in his jeans and boots. Would be my guess.
Yes, and he showed us the trick with the belt.
We've all seen it.
We all seen it, right? So he did it here on camera for a whole audience, and it was awesome.
Did he charge money for it this time?
He did not, because he messed the first time.
Okay. I'll have to call him and kind of rub that in a little bit.
Right? Yes.
That would be fun.
Scott, thank you so much for coming to the show, man. It's such a great story. We had that call before, and like super awesome to learn about yourself and learn about your business. So, right. Without further ado, where are you from? Where's your beginnings? Where are you from?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm a Dallas boy.
You are
Born and raised East Dallas. And if you really want the spooky thing, haven't lived more than 2 miles from where I've grown up ever.
Wow.
Lived in East Dallas, a little area called Lockwood. Went off to college, law school. When I got home, moved into an area called Old Lake Highlands, which is literally one subdivision over.
A little bit closer?
Well, a little bit closer to White Rock Lake.
Okay.
And then you get married, whatnot, have to expand. Moved literally one subdivision over again to Casa Linda, which is where I've always wanted to live. And so in a sense, I'm living my dream. But I'm kind of stuck in East Dallas. You know, there's a lot of people who want to go, let's go to Frisco, right? With all the new stuff going on.
Yeah.
I'm kind of happy where I am.
Right. And it's cool, man, that when I can't say the same, because I was always moving from time to time, and it's still, I admire that you in the same. So you probably saw that whole thing bloom, because on the East Texas there wasn't just really a bunch of farms. And
well, so if I'm a Dallas boy, though, where are you from?
I'm from Brazil originally.
Brazil, okay.
But I've been here 22 years.
In Texas?
In Texas, Dallas all the way.
Does that make you a Texan now?
I don't know. You tell me. Show me
those shoes. Okay. We got to get you a pair of boots, Bubba.
I got the hat.
Well, see, I would wear a hat. I just don't look good in a cowboy hat.
Yeah?
You may. But you need boots first.
I need boots. I know. The boots it's something. You move you to Texas, and all those Californians out there, if you come to Dallas, you got to get yourself some boots, But I've been here long enough.
Yeah, and they're comfy, man. If you get the right boots.
That's right. And so what is... from living in East Texas, and
I mean, East Dallas, baby. We're not talking East Texas.
It's Dallas, yes, it's Dallas. As you said it. And what you decided to go to a law school? Was it something that you was from family or?
Do I have to tell you the truth?
Yes.
So I'm an engineer undergrad.
Okay.
And so I was being trained to take over my father's business, who was he did a lot of development work, surveying work and whatnot. So of course, when you grow up with a father like that,
Yeah.
you get involved in all those things. So I'm a surveyor, understand all the land development, those kind of items and whatnot, and things that go along with civil engineering pretty well. But when I graduated college, I was 20 years old. So I was young, very young. And, best way to put that is probably young and stupid. And what I tell people today is when you look back in hindsight, because we have no lawyers in my family. And in all honesty, I will tell you, I probably wasn't ready to grow up. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to get out in the real world now? Are you kidding me? No. And my roommate was going to law school. And it's like, well, okay, that sounds like a great idea. Then it's like, where do you go? And no idea. And you just go do it.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you that one of the weirdest things is you go to law school. Of course, law school, the legal profession is a verbal profession, right? Engineering is mathematical. And the two don't mix for a while. It is oil and water, baby. And it took about a year and a half for that light bulb to go off until you kind of started to figure things out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you look back again and you wonder why. Because I'll be honest with you, Neander, I never intended to be in the real estate investment business. Never intended to be in real estate at all. You're supposed to go out and be an engineer first, right? And you're supposed to go out, you go to law school, it's like, oh, now I have to be a lawyer. I had no idea what a lawyer really did at all. But in hindsight, as you get into this industry, you go, holy cow, the path was laid out before me intentionally, which is what makes it awesome, I think, because I have been able to blend my engineering degrees and the knowledge base of all that with the legal concepts and the practicing out there as well together into this industry, which has been hugely beneficial. But who would have known?
Right. And when people think about lawyers, they think about criminal lawyers. That's the first thing that they think about it, right? Criminal or something legal that is like a huge lawsuit or something. But the real estate side obviously can get that side too on the huge lawsuit. But
You can.
you can.
But, I will tell you that I had a job for 1 year here in Dallas. I get out of law school, went to work for a real estate development firm. This is back in '84, a long time ago. Thank you very much. And you have a job for 1 year and the real estate crash hits at that point. And it was a lot worse than the one in 2008, 2009 that came up. But when you're young, you don't know what's going on. You just know that the real estate company you work for went poof, and they're gone. What do you do?
Oh, wow. They ran out of business.
Oh, well, everybody went out of business.
Yeah.
At that point in time, if you're in the real estate business, it stopped. And you got to figure out how to go fend for yourself. So I never really got a chance to go work for although I had a general counsel who was training me or trying to, and most lawyers get mentorships through their attorneys they work for. Some guys don't. I didn't. I got a little bit, enough to be dangerous. And from there, you go out and you learn it on your own. You learn it the hard way. And that's how you do it.
Right. And so the real estate attorney, and what is the a role of a of a real estate attorney?
Oh, it's myriad. I mean, it could cover so many things from the commercial world to the residential world and the development world and all things in between. But in my world, as a real estate and title attorney today, and in the beginning, when you're laid off, I went to work into the commercial real estate world, really, trying to figure things out. And I'll give you a quick story with that before I get into what the attorney does a little bit. But you go back to those days, what you don't realize when you're young and stupid, and you're 24, you don't know what's going on in the world really, you don't realize that you can't buy and sell real estate in the middle of a recession and in the middle of a real estate crash. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
And so we were heavily invested into the apartment industry, brokering apartment complexes and office buildings here
Multifamily.
in DFW around Texas, and nothing was moving. Now, I can tell you stories that are kind of interesting where one of the groups I was working with then, I had put 3 apartment complexes under contract with this whale out of Florida, down in the Miami area. Came in and was offering $80 million all cash to buy these 3 apartment complexes, and they wound up being owned by the RTC, the Resolution Trust Company, the government who had foreclosed on them all back then, and they turned the deal down. Just think about the commissions that would have been earned on that at that point in time.
Can you
Huge.
imagine?
Years later, those same apartments sold for $50 million. That's your government at work, baby. So, you realize things like that go poof, right? And you start to realize, okay, commercial real estate isn't moving. You can't do this stuff. You got to do something else.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was fortunate to meet a gentleman. His name is Bernie Malinsky. And he was the innovator of all your frequent user programs, your bonus mileage programs for the airlines, and then eventually your hotel honored guest
Mileage,
programs
honor.
along the way. And I'm this young, snotty-nosed kid. That was back in the jeans and boots day. You would wear a jacket. My hair was a little bit longer, back then. And for whatever reason, I could talk the game really well and had learned how to be communicative out there. So he says, will you come work for me and buy apartments? Are you kidding me? And this gentleman had some huge partners in the industry, one of them being Bill Marriott of Marriott Hotels. And it's like, we're going to buy everything. And so it's like, your job is to go buy apartments. I'm going, okay. Of course, have I ever
Let's
bought one
go.
for my entire life? No.
Yeah.
Anyway, we bought it. And, again, unfortunately, what you learn is you learn due diligence, because I got probably screwed royally. And then my job was to not only just buy it, I realized I had to rehab it. I had to furnish it. I had to staff it, the landscaping, all of the
full-blown
everything.
operations.
And it's like, me? But when that is presented to you, what do? You go do it, right?
Yeah.
And you figure it out. But it teaches you so much about the business and the industry doing those kind of things.
100%.
And you start learning things. But you go through, and I can go on and on down the line with these kind of things that we did back in that time frame. And one day you just go, I have had enough, because in that real estate world, still in recession and the crash, things aren't moving. So you start your law practice. And when you start your law practice, being totally green, you do whatever walks in the door, whether it's a little bit of family law stuff that you have no idea how to do it. That means you go sit in the law library and you figure it out by reading things. And by the way, we didn't have the wonderful internet back in those days.
Right.
We didn't even have
real
computers
library.
back in those days. That tells you how old we are a little bit. And then you figure things out.
And the books of laws, there are a bunch of them. It is like, Jesus.
And you got to learn where to go, where to find things.
Yeah.
But it teaches you so much from the ground up. One of the things that I was able to do when all this happened is I did what I knew how to do, which was put together a real estate deal. And I put together a syndication, which is nothing more than marrying the real estate with the investor with the financing. It's a fancy word for that. And to buy these 100 duplexes at Skillman and LBJ. This was back in 1986.
Skillman and LBJ, you know exactly where it is.
Just on the north side. And these were new duplexes. They were leasing for $1,200 a month, which was a lot of money back then, by the way. And they were all getting foreclosed on. And so I had everything put together, ready to close. And, as guys like us in the real estate business, you're making an awesome real estate commission.
Sure.
And all of a sudden they changed the tax laws, and poof, it's gone. And what do? You just walk away. And so I reached out to the lenders who I'd been communicating with, getting the payoffs and those kind of things. It's like, guys, they knew things had cratered, what was going on. It's like, what are y'all going to do? They went, don't know. So I opened the door going, do y'all need help managing or anything? They said, sure. Can you do it? Sure. Of course, had I ever managed a piece of property in my entire life? Nope. And now I'm getting 100 duplexes. It's like, I don't have a lease. Where do you get a lease? How do you, you have to go learn this stuff. And back in those days, we used this wild
It wasn't
thing.
a third-party management company for...
No, I was it.
You were...
I was the management company. And you learned this. And back then, as I said earlier, we didn't have computers. So you're using a little thing called a typewriter, right?
Yeah.
Have you even seen a typewriter before? And you type your own documents. You type your
Oh,
own
is
leases.
that the one?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. That.
A little bit better with all 10 fingers, but not just 2. Not the hunt and peck mechanism. But when you do that, what I love to tell people today is, guess what? You learn it.
Yeah.
It gets ingrained in your brain. You got to type up all these things and whatnot, because you're not only reading it, you're typing it, and it gets into your brain. And you just go and you do it. And it was awesome. But so many people wouldn't do those kind of things today.
Right. But Scott, I'm amazed by that story. You know why? Because I happen to know, being in the industry too, and some lawyers that just got out of school and first thing to do is say, get into a firm. But somebody that actually did to do what you did back then is just build so much of a foundation of knowledge of that is awesome.
Well, you got a chance to build, and although you didn't make any money, that was the problem, with foundations in the commercial world, office building. I mean, we were making offers on high-rise office buildings, strip centers, those kind of things, freestanding, the apartment world. You got a good round knowledge of the commercial industry, and at the same time, you're seeing the legalese behind it.
Yeah.
You're seeing the contracts. You're seeing the negotiations. You're learning the basics of the industry. No, today, a lot of people go out and they have their mentors and those kind of items. They get a chance, or they're able to buy programs and learn through other mechanisms. We didn't have that. And so you learn through a different mechanism that it really is the same thing, only different, right?
Right.
But it's real life learning on the ground. And it just teaches you a different way of doing things. Because you can go take all the classes you want to take, today. You can listen to all the podcasts. You can do this. But until you get off your butt and go do it and experience it, yeah. You're never going to learn it.
100%.
You have to get there to do that. So you ask the question, what does a real estate attorney do? So in my world, what we do is, so first off, back in 1996, we had already been in the real estate investment world. We can talk about that later on if you'd like. We were already buying and selling, 200 houses, a year. So we had 400 closings. It's like, wait a minute, we are throwing away money. Let's go start a title company. Great. How do you do that? No idea. I'd closed the title companies. Just happened to have a great lady that worked for us who had been in the title industry. Walked in one day, said, we're going to start a title company. She looked at me and go, we are? And the rest has been history. It's been great. And you learn it on the fly, which is really what happened. And over the last 30-something years, we've had up to 4 offices at any one point in time. We've done 30, 35, 40,000 closings probably now. You learn the business. You learn how to fix things. But in my industry, a real estate attorney deals with realtors. We deal with real estate investors, contract issues, the closing process, documentation, deeds, notes and deeds of trust, whatever it might be, to put the transaction together, move it from acquisition to closing, help them structure the deal and think through it properly, make sure they're not missing things along the way, and make the deal happen. Because the deal doesn't close, nobody makes any money, really.
Absolutely. Nobody.
And that's the main thing you want to do. And so in my world, we're a very narrow-focused company. We deal in the creative finance industry, buy, sell, and everything in between with that business. We deal with landlord-tenant, just because it comes up in our issues for all of our clients. And unfortunately, we got to deal with the foreclosure issues from time to time. And we do all that, but that is all we do. If somebody else walks in the door, litigation, etc., I got my guys that do that for us, and I'll let them handle that. Things today in the legal world get so complicated, you can't do everything. You got to get fairly narrowly focused to do it. Then, of course, in the title industry, as the title attorney, you work within that profession, which is the closing process. You cure issues that come up on the commitments, probate issues, whatever it might be, in order to clear the title so that buyer and seller can close that transaction and go make it happen. And so that's what we do in the real estate side as a real estate attorney.
That's awesome, man. And we can't wait to hear the rest of the story learn about the business and every day. But before, guess what time it is? The time that you're expecting.
Is it coffee time yet?
Coffee time. Let's go.
Well, at least we know you have a job if this doesn't work out for you, right?
You know it. But I'm not going to Starbucks though. I'm going to a local coffee shop, 'cause that's where the great coffees are.
Or that, or you could be a server, or whatever it might be.
I was a server. Hey, let me backtrack. Thank you for coming.
Thank
Scott.
you.
It's been a pleasure. But yeah, I was a server. So you're from East Dallas, closer to Fort Worth now, I suppose, or still in East Dallas?
East Dallas.
East Dallas. You venture a lot around the stockyards?
Do I out in the stockyards?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Love the stockyards.
So I used to work at Joe T. Garcia's.
Really?
Yeah, I was there from
Enchiladas
2000
or fajitas?
Enchiladas or fajitas. You know the deal. There's no menu, cash only, man.
That's it.
Yeah. So I was there from 2014 up to 2020. So, and I was
But
doing
not
that
a
as
bad
a side
place to
job.
be.
No, I had that as a second job. Sometimes I even had 3 jobs, but that's basically where the serving side of coffee comes about, man. Everything comes together. Look at that.
I love it, man.
And if you're talking about it, like Italo, he knows so much about coffee that he can start his own freaking show, his own course, a crash course, how to know about coffee, how to drink the coffee right.
But he kind of immersed himself into it, didn't he?
Yes, he
Learned
did.
how to do it.
I was voluntold, and now he regrets it.
I know, because now I cannot even have a conversation about coffee other than just geeking out. And,
Right. So Scott, in the beginning, he was like, "Hey, do you have sugar creamer for my coffee?" I was like, "No, not today. We're gonna try something different today." So this is one of your finds, right?
Yes.
So where'd you find this one?
I bought it at Whole Foods. I was there for something else. You know, we always gonna check it out. What's up? And I look at the roasting day. It was still under within Intolo's criteria, right? So I was
There
like,
you go.
okay, that could be great for the show.
All right. So this is Stumptown, and I'm not gonna tell the notes just yet because I kind of want to see if you can guess it. But let's give this a shot. So we were gonna have this coffee together.
Do you like wine?
I love wine.
So there you go.
Yeah, this is, when you get to Italo's level, this is like tasting wine, right? You taste it and you put your pinky up.
We're not
and you
going to
talk.
spit it out, are we?
No.
No.
No. And then I know this video thing. They actually do spit it out when they're testing, like the graders, the coffee graders, they do spit out because
Yeah, they do
otherwise
spit
they don't sleep for 3 days.
Right.
With the
Oh, wow.
caffeine.
So one note, what I'm gonna start telling people is let's treat this beverage not just as we treat coffee. Drink this as this is the first time ever drinking this beverage. You don't know it's coffee, okay? And let's see what you think about it. So give it a good smell, and then
It's good.
It's very fruity forward, man. Holy cow.
so
Has a little bouquet to it, kind of, doesn't it?
yeah. What do you taste on that coffee? Like if you're to like tell somebody like, oh, this tastes like XYZ, anything you can.
I have the worst palate definition you can imagine. Are you kidding me?
Tell him. Now
it's
he's going to identify. Tell him
to a
the
wine, well, it has like dark chocolate and cherries and this. It's like, what? Either you like it or you don't, right?
But you kind of got it.
Exactly.
You kind of got it. It's milk chocolate. The notes on it, so it's more chocolatey on that coffee. That's funny. So I guess overall you don't have a bad taste bud.
A little chocolate. I agree with a little fruity thing, a
Yeah.
little bit in there.
Yeah, and the colder it gets, the better it's gonna taste. So that's the difference on this type of coffee versus like the Folgers that you get at home in the morning and it cools down. You're like, ugh, can't drink this anymore. You dump that
Yeah.
whole pot.
So-
Now you gotta make another
But
one.
This is
since
good.
we
Yeah, I
have
like it.
we have a small coffee farm in Brazil, and the coffee that we drink, like to appreciate it, man, that's how it's supposed to drink, not too roasted. People thinks that hot coffee to get the caffeine has to be that really bitter, and no. This is actually perfect. It's almost like a tea.
I agree.
Absolutely.
So how's it taste with bourbon in it?
Oh, even better.
That's we're gonna do that tasting after we shut off the
Okay.
cameras.
Got a deal.
But I was hearing you asking Neander. So, as far as like the culture goes for the countryside, we come from a state in Brazil that is kind of like Texas. So we're basically the Texas of Brazil. We have the cattle, we have all like the farms and all that stuff. And coming here to Texas, the first thing I did when I got here, I got myself a pair of boots. I don't have a fancy pair of boots just yet. I need to go out there and get one of those fancy pair of boots. But I do love the culture. And when I listen to people like you talking about Texas, talking about Dallas with such a passion about it, it reminds me of home, because people that are from our state in there, they love our state, and they're really proud to be from our
Well,
state.
you want to be proud, you know,
Absolutely.
whether it's from your state or from your country and whatnot. That's what you're supposed to do. And you come here, you got to, you know, get invested in everything and do what you do.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't mean you forget where you came from, but you have to immerse yourself into the Texas culture.
Absolutely. Hey,
But
We
you
love
don't-
it.
Neither one of you have the Texas drawl yet. That's the only thing.
well, if y'all want to
And
hear
20 years here,
well, we have a problem though, because we travel to Brazil every now and then. It resets every time you come back. People are like, oh, your accent is back. So there's a little reset in there. But when I was working at the stockyards, the y'all and all that was there, man. I was two-stepping 3 times a week and doing all those fun things and going skeet shooting, you name it.
well, at least you picked up the fun things.
Hey,
That's great stuff.
that's the good things about Texas. That's all I want. Keep the bad stuff out.
Even the shooting part's the fun part.
Absolutely. But here it's something for you. I want you to take home.
Well, thank you.
So whenever you're having your coffee in there, and
Does it have your picture on it too?
oh, you know it,
Oh, it does, man.
You know it.
It's a mystery box. We'll open later.
right? But
It won't jump out and bite me when in the car, will it?
just call me if he does.
Okay.
But Scott, thank you so much for
You're welcome.
trying out our coffee. Loving to hear your story, and truly appreciate you. I'll be on my little corner right there making more coffee if you need some more, man.
Just bring the big cup over, okay?
Big old one.
Well, not the belly wash, but yeah.
You
Whatever
got
might
it.
be.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, real quick before we continue. So if you want to learn a little bit more how to get started and invest in real estate today, please go to their website, multifamilyempire.com. And if you also want to learn how to do the best cup of coffee in your own home, we're going to teach you a lot of tips and tricks. Go to multifamilyempire.com/forward the real grind. Let's get back to that interview. Scott, talk to me about your business today. Like what you guys do. I know you guys run some events and you're educating people how to get into the business. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I will. I'm going to tell you how we got here first, though, okay?
Yes, please.
Because I think that's the important part, because that's what taught us what we do today, I think. So if you remember, Neander, originally I go back and I said, I've had enough of the commercial real estate world and whatnot. I'm going to start my own law practice. I got to find a way to make a living and get things going. Mm-hmm. So never intended to be, again, per se in the real estate investment industry or business. And hooked up with a gentleman in these duplexes I managed who was a contractor. And I knew some, fairly well-to-do people from our church back then who had the money, and they were big attorneys. And we were just talking one day. It's like, you want to go try to buy a house and fix it up? It's like, okay, let's go try it. So I got lucky and found the deal. I had the money guy behind us and had the contractor. And we went out, we did our first deal. And on Christmas Eve, after we just got the house finished, we're actually sitting at church that evening, and my pager goes off. Yes, a pager, okay?
A pager.
A pager. And it's like, who the heck? So I call it, and it's a guy across the street, and it's like, hey, man, water's running out your front door. It's like, what? It was, below freezing.
Yeah.
We didn't turn the water off, didn't have the heat on. So what happened? Pipes burst upstairs, flooded the upstairs, collapsed the ceiling downstairs.
Oh my gosh. Goodness.
And that's when you go, thank goodness for insurance. Thank goodness to know the right people to take care of the problems, and we did. And we sold that house, made a little bit of money, and went on. Okay, no big deal. And one day I'm in my office sitting there, and this guy comes in the door, and this was a young guy about my age who was actually living in a beauty shop, his mother's beauty shop, in this little 8x10 room. And he asked me if I know anything about sweat equity, which was under the FHA rules and regulations back then. And I knew a little bit about the programs back in those days, and yeah. And one thing led to the next, and we decided to go out and start buying houses. The only problem is where do you get money from, right? And back in those days, we had a thing called the newspaper, and there was a place called Money Wanted, Money to Lend. And we just started making cold calls and asking. And
was that a type of hard money?
That was a type of hard money before the word hard money even existed.
Wow, yeah.
And you go borrow the private capital, and we start buying houses. And back then, you're buying houses for $15,000, $20,000 that are distressed properties. But then you got to find contractors. Well, how do you find contractors, right? And, it sounds goofy, but we would drive around the neighborhoods where we were, and you'd find houses being worked on. Maybe there's a dumpster in the front yard, where it might be. We'd just stop, go in and talk to them, see what kind of work they're doing. And you start meeting people, right? And so many people in this business are afraid to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you start meeting the guys and try them out. And you would eventually find the good ones. You'd eventually learn how to cut the budgets down. The only problem is back in those days, when we started with one house, one went to 2, went to 4. We're still using private capital, went to 8, and we're doing more, and things are building and growing a little bit. And you realize you can't afford basically the hard money.
Sure.
You got to find an exit strategy you want.
Yeah.
And so it's like, we've got to get bank financing. Great. Never borrowed money from a bank in my entire life. Never talked to a bank. Didn't know how to talk to a bank. Didn't know you needed a financial statement. I thought if you just had a great deal, they'd lend you money on it, right? And so you start calling the banks. And the one thing, again, you don't realize is banks don't lend money in the middle of a recession on real estate. But I didn't know that. I just started asking the questions. And you go to bank 1, to bank 2, to bank 3, bank 10, bank 20. And of course, every time you go in, it's like, Horne, you were stupid saying those things. Change it this way. And you start learning your conversation, right? And you get better. You need a financial statement. Well, they'd point out the fallacies in it. You'd adjust it appropriately, take care of it. And eventually, after, I have to say, almost 100 banks, I think this one bank finally said yes to do one deal. And I really think they were just tired of seeing me come in there all the time. But that one deal, we got in, did the deal, turned it, paid it off. They did 2. 2 turned to 4, to 8. And eventually that one bank did over 1,000 deals for us.
Really?
But so many people, again, in our industry would have given up after the first 1, 2, 5, 10 times. They lack that perseverance that is so important in this industry.
Rejection, yeah.
So along the way, Neander, what we were doing is we had a stable of people making offers on properties, just nonstop. Didn't have the resources they have today for this purpose, and we're sending out contracts to realtors of all things and buying deals, and we're bringing down eventually 20 deals a month. Mm-hmm. And these are full rehabs. And as you're doing that, what we learned was that if you're buying 20 deals every month, that means in month 2 you got 40 houses, that the work on the first 20 is just getting finished up so you can go to market on them, but now you got 40. By the time the 3rd month rolls around, you have 60. Well, think of the debt carry on that. It's huge. And so we started learning the creative finance way. What was fun was back then, there was a gentleman here in Dallas by the name of Ken D'Angelo. Mm-hmm. You may not know that name, but you know the name Homevestors.
Yes.
So Ken is the guy who created Homevestors.
Oh, really?
And so back then we would flip houses back and forth to each other and things of that nature along the way. And just talk strategy. You thought about this, you thought about that, you think this, you think that. Maybe you could try this. And you're just sharing information, right? Kind of like the mastermind groups that are out there today a little bit. We were able to share info. And you just come up with different ways of doing things because it really wasn't happening per se. And we started learning the creative finance world. And back then we could do the lease options, the lease purchases, and different things. And the contract for deeds, things that you really may not be able to do today that become more problematic, but we were able to do them then. And we learned to get our properties income producing. And so by getting them income producing, it gave us more capacity to carry the load. And as we kept building and growing, our banks kept doing more and more deals with us. And we learned how to warehouse the properties. And then we started to learn a little thing called the note game, which was buying a seller finance note. And the industry, I don't know if it was new back then, but it was in an infancy maybe. I know that a buddy of ours, Eddie Speed, was well-versed back in those days as well in buying a lot of that paper. But we started learning how to sell that paper into the market. So where you would buy these houses at 50 cents, you'd sell them at 100 cents, and you'd get a down payment. And you'd sell your note at 70 cents. You're going, is that it? Yeah, that was it. And of course, you're selling C credit and things of that nature, but it's high interest rates. And it kind of felt like we were selling junk bonds almost. I can tell you stories where I bought the same house 4 times.
You serious?
Bought it, rehabbed it, sold it to lender one, sold the note. They got foreclosed on. We bought it back, did it again. And, but we started to learn that game. We started to hone that in. We started to, craft our paperwork for that. You start to learn that to maximize your dollars, you need to process the buyer, get an application, tax returns, the common sense things, make it more mainstream. And you start to learn how to buy houses better. You start to learn how to rehab them better, cheaper. You start to realize they're a commodity. You're not going to live in it. Mm-hmm. You start to learn better sale techniques, how to get the property's income producing quicker and faster. You start to learn marketing. How do we find buyers? We used to be heavily invested in Hispanic radio and TV back then. That brought in tons of buyers and a wider audience. Instead of doing the billboards that was big back then, it was going another avenue. Anyway, you learn to do the business by doing the business. And by necessity, you learn to reduce your cost of financing. You learn how to cut out the mortgage companies. Can we cut out the title companies at some point? And all these middle people, so you learn how to maximize dollars. And you start to build from all those various constructs a business. And it wasn't some great business plan we had. We didn't have a business plan. You just go and you do. And when necessity dictates, find a different lender. When you need to find a different contractor, find a different contractor. You need to learn how to do a deal differently. How can we buy cheaper, whatever it might be. You learn these things on the fly based upon how things are affecting your business. You adapt and you get better and better and better. And so that's, as I said, we were cranking out high volume back then. That was throughout the 1990s pretty much. We started the title business, and one day I walked into my partner and it's like, Dave, we're going to start lending money. And he goes, we're going to do what? I said, look, we can't handle any more houses on its own when we're kind of at a max out there. And I said, we can lend money and do the same game. It's like, well, how are we going to do it? I went, I have no idea. Where's the money going to come from? I went, no idea. And you go figure it out. And what has been so fun with that is from about 1996, 97 through 09, we became Texas's largest hard money lender. Again, it wasn't something that we planned to do. We just went out and did it, and we're very fortunate along the way to be successful at it. And because we knew our industry so well from having bought a couple of thousand houses, at that point in time, we got it.
Right.
Because you got to know your client, you got to know the industry, and that's what protects you along the way.
And it's like being vertically integrated, right? It's like building the foundation.
We started building it, both from the acquisition side and the lending side, the title side, and things of that nature.
It's like you're mastering all the areas.
We were, but you don't know that at the time,
right?
Hindsight's always 20/20, right? When you look back, but you learn this and you generate experience. Yeah. And let me tell you what, did things happen? Oh hell yeah, they happen. Yeah. Contractors walk away from money. You learn you don't pay them up front. They screw things up. You learn how to save money better, but that's what makes you, I guess, an asset to the community today is doing that. I earned every one of these daggum white hairs doing that kind of stuff. And it's like, I know we've been talking about some other guys on your program here, like Eddie, he learned the business along the way in the same format and became the biggest guy in the industry that did what he did. I watched another buddy of ours, John Jackson, who developed the lease option stuff and became one of the biggest guys in the industry that does what he does. It's great. But we just learned how to buy, rehab, how to do better, how to create these notes, how to sell notes, and how to make things work. And then, of course, all this happens. And then 08, 09 hits, and boom, whole world changes. And we had 130 or so investors just walk away at one time. What do? Let me tell you what, dude. You don't want to be there. I don't want to go through that again. But you're on the road for 4.5 years. You're finding the deals that went bad. You're finding the deals. You're going to rehab it. And it's like, what do you do? Because At that time, if you had a house that was worth, let's say, 100, if you had a loan for 70, you think you're safe, right? Wrong. The market's offering you 40. You can't do that.
That's crazy. Scary.
And so from that, what saved us was the knowledge of the creative finance world that we'd been doing for so long. And so we started renovating the properties and seller financing them. Our banks loved it because they didn't have to foreclose. Yeah, we had to restructure the loans, but guess what? They got paid off. And that's what they were looking for. So many people just walked away back at that time in the industry. And so again, it teaches you different ways of doing things to be more protective along the way. But truly, it was the seller finance that we do so much of today that saved us. And then after 2009, they start changing all the laws. They create this thing called the SAFE Act, which is where the RMLO, or the Residential Mortgage Loan Originator, comes from for loan processing in the owner finance industry. They created Dodd-Frank, and it actually does affect us investors to a certain degree. You have to learn those items. And so now, with the laws that have changed, because in Texas, they eliminated the ability to do a contract for deed back in 2001, really, to an owner-occupant. In 2005 and 2007, they changed our lease option laws, which changed the options and the lease purchases and those kind of things and made them very problematic for owner-occupants again. So now, what can you do? And so the world is changing, the laws are changing, financing is changing. The solution was owner financing, both buying and selling in those scenarios along the way. And you have to, again, learn how to navigate it. Grant you, being a lawyer, help to read this stuff a little bit, to delve into it, ask the questions from other people, and kind of put it together. And never intended to become this law firm that became the go-to law firm in Texas for owner financing, but we did. We'd had
from
needed
experience by
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, you needed disclosures for yourself.
Sure.
Other people needed them. They were coming to us going, what can we do? Help. And this was the solution. And we just honed it in, got better and better at it along the way. And then the industry demanded loan processing. So we created the first loan processing company here in Texas. It demanded loan servicing. We helped the first group doing that, put it together, and provided them a huge amount of business along the way. And back in those days, Neander, when you're a lawyer and you're the buyer, the seller, you're closing the deal, you don't want to also be the processor, the servicer. You can't wear too many hats at one time.
Sure.
Everything's too new. But over time, it goes, okay, now it's time to come out and do this. So today, we are vertically integrated into that industry, both as from the legal side and title side to provide that service, whether it's for ourselves direct or for the investor population in Texas and nationally. We help them structure the loan properly if they need that assistance. If they need the loan processing, we have that built in. We have the loan servicing. And here in Texas, they keep changing our laws because of bad investors. And back in 2022, a new law came into place. We call it the WRAP lending bill, that says if you are going to do a wraparound loan and you do more than 3 in a 12-month period, not only must you close it on a law firm or a title company, you've got to be a licensed RMLO and registered state, and some other disclosures that they made us do out there too. But we became vertically integrated in the industry to become more of a resource to the investor community who is doing this. And this industry is exploding right now, both in Texas as well as nationally. But you look back on this, you go, holy cow. No, all of this experience you learned, all this school of hard knocks that you learned. I'm sure you guys have had some hard knocks as well along the way. And it just adds to that repertoire that makes you, more beneficial to our community. And that's the fun part. And today we get a chance to teach people how to do this. And that's the fun part also, and how to do it the right way. So it's awesome.
And that's incredible. By the way, man, you guys like being vertically integrated and the experience, like I said, the foundation and learning and providing our service that definitely can open many doors for your clients. And now the mentorship program.
Well, the funny story is the whole world wants us to be a mentor to them. Yeah, no. I'm not the guy to mentor. Now, we do put on, one-day programs to help investors learn this. We have
Yeah.
a training website that they can go to that where we teach seller financing, provide them a lot of free information.
Yeah, like a seminar kind of thing.
In a sense, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So we do our one-day seminars. I don't like the 3-day seminar thing. It's just too much, and you don't really need it.
Yeah.
The key is to light the fire, give them enough information to go out there, and it's like, guys, you got to get off your butt and go do it.
Yep.
That's the hardest part.
Absolutely.
But we created a company called the Owner Finance Network, which is the vertical integration of all the services I just talked about, to be that one-stop shop and provide them what they need. And we've got hundreds of free videos on there. Ask the attorney things that are directly related to the creative finance industry, both buying and selling and everything in between. Provide them the services they need along the way in order to help the investor understand those items properly and work along the way. No, if somebody wants me to be their mentor, I'd be happy to do it. But for $10,000 a day, nobody's taken me up on it yet. So we try. There are other people who can be the mentors who are better than I am per se at it. We teach our programs that way, and then we provide the services to help them do that. And those guys who are the mentors, I get it. They do it on a smaller scale basis, probably if they're bigger. They don't have the ability to go out and do the houses themselves.
Yeah.
So I still love to go out there and walk the walk and talk the talk, do the deals, and blend the whole thing together to be more advantageous for our
Of course,
investors.
but just with the fact that you guys have tons of videos and content and material that people can learn on their own, which now is very popular, right? That's the reason we have YouTube, and a lot of people are watching stuff and getting knowledge. And I appreciate you providing that avenue, the platform.
The whole world has gone that way.
Yeah.
And I'm still the old dog from the 80s out there a little bit, who did things just because we didn't have those opportunities. So of course I'm going kicking and screaming into it all. I've got to do countless videos, weekly and monthly that get out and get launched. And it's just coming up that new content constantly.
But just that, your fact that you hear and sharing, a lot of our awesome audience will definitely appreciate your story, because that is, when we talk, this is where I am today, nobody realizes how, the journey.
Oh, it was, what was so...
And by you sharing this, is what other people listen will be like, man, I could do this too. You know what I mean? I have to persevere, because you said something in the beginning. It was like a lot of people might quit in the first time.
They all do. They do.
You know what I mean?
When you're doing a seminar and you've got, 100 people out there, whatever it might be, that probably 95% will never do anything. They're just gatherers.
Exactly.
And it's how can you push them to that next level?
Call an event junkie.
And they just want to get more information, but they can't pull that trigger.
Yeah.
They're risk averse. They're scared. And how can you get them past it? That's what you want to try to do along the way. And if you can, it's awesome. One of the things I try to tell investors is, and of course they come to me and go, well, you're a lawyer. It made it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, malarkey. That's the best word I can use that on air. But no, it's the school of hard knocks. It's perseverance. It's learning. It's getting enough information to be dangerous. Get out and do it. Don't be scared, and go make it happen, right? But you got to get off your butt and do it. And that's where so many people fail. But they look at me and go, I want to be like Scott and do all these deals. It's like, yeah, you may not. We are all destined to have a certain role in our life, whether it's coffee or whatever it might be, right? And you got to find that niche. But once you're in that job, if your job is to be an engineer or a lawyer or whatever it might be, great, go do it. But once you do it, you got money, you got to put it somewhere, right? And if you just learn how to play this game, just do one deal a year. And what I love to teach people is how to do one deal a year, go buy a house at full price. And if you learn how to finance properties properly and correctly, just one deal a year. That's not hard to do, right? You do it every year for 10 years. You learn how to properly manage that money, where you pay off loan 1, then loan 2, then loan 3, and hyper accelerate them. By the time 13 to 14 years goes by, you now have 10 houses debt free. You're generating, 18, 20,000 a month of income. You can't put that in the stock market and do that, I don't think.
Absolutely not.
And
Maybe
those kind of things.
It's some fluctuation in some period of time, but then you have to deal with the not sustainable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
so easy ways of doing things, and it's just get people to realize basics.
Right.
If they do it, I can't imagine doing anything else. This is a fun business.
I'm going to tell you, super passionate about it too.
Whatever.
You think? But this is the part that we're going to do, the spilling the beans with Scott. Let's go. Texas Tech or A&M?
I'm an Aggie. Come on.
Ah, let's go. Fort Worth or Dallas?
Fort Worth.
Horse track or casino?
Casino. Craps table, baby.
Golf or hunting?
Both.
Texas barbecue or Tex-Mex?
Both.
No, I got to pick one, man.
Those are unfair questions. If I had to pick one, barbecue.
Okay. Whiskey or margaritas? Shut the cameras off. Let him.
Whiskey.
Let's go.
Is wine in there?
No. 1987 market crash or the crash of 2008? Well, which one was worse?
Oh, 08. 97 wasn't bad. 85, 86, 87 was horrible. But I was too young to know about it then. But 08, 09 was terrible.
All right. So, Horne and Associates or the Texas or the title company? Which one would you pick?
Horne and Associates. You get a chance to work with more people direct, take care of better deals, and make it happen. I can always go buy title insurance if I had to through somebody else.
Let's go. And that completes the Spin in the Beans with Scott. Italo, that was too easy, man.
That was too easy. And our friend John didn't really do a good job giving us some inside information. So I'll blame it on John.
Deep questions that you start sweat. One of our guests, he was sweating at the asking some quick questions.
Do we need to send John that picture I showed you of him?
You know it.
His 80s ladies' man day.
You got it.
I want to see that.
I'll show it to you in a moment.
All right. So Scott,
He's a girly man, baby.
He is.
Or he was then.
If you can look at camera 3 and if you can give yourself an advice, we're just beginning back there, man. What would you have to say to yourself?
Gather knowledge, but you don't need to be a consistent gatherer and know everything to get started. Get enough knowledge base and get out and go do your first deal. Learn perseverance. Deals don't just fall in your lap. You got to get out there and hustle. You got to learn how to work with other people. Be creative in your thought process along the way. Don't put yourself in a box saying, I'm only going to do one thing and one thing only. Be learning all the various avenues of our industry.
Powerful. Creativity, definitely. It's a big deal, man. They said a man without creativity is a man without wings.
I like that. So we try to get very creative in our industry. It's what makes the world go around for us. And things keep changing. You got to keep up with the marketplace. And as things change, you've got to change with the marketplace or else you can dry up and blow away. You can't just do one thing and one thing only. And I go back, I'll tell you a quick story again, and won't make it too long, about when the crash hit in 08, 09. I was pushing out the seller finance programs, especially to the realtor marketplace, and nobody wanted to listen. It's illegal. It's this. It's that. No, it wasn't. They were afraid to do something different. And in Texas, we had about 200,000 realtors at that time, and more than half went poof. They were gone. How many people could have still been realtors, made a lot of money? How many people could they have helped who were getting foreclosed on back then? Because there were plenty of people who wanted to be able to buy a house. If they would just learned the creative finance world a little bit and how to help sellers and buyers in a difficult situation and how to blend those together properly with the right resources. But it was the blind leading the blind I saw. But because of their unwillingness to think outside the box, they got out of the industry and went away. And so when we as investors can learn different things to do, when you can learn to adapt and morph with the times, because our economies change. There's always a constant ebb and flow. And you've got to adjust accordingly. Like right now, our bank rates are high, property rates are high, property taxes are high.
Insurance.
Okay, maybe you got to find some different things to do along the way. And you got to figure those kind of things out and make them work.
Great. Brother, how can people get to know a little your information or your guys' company?
Well, we have a slew of companies obviously out there. You mentioned one, which is Horne and Associates PC. That is our law firm that works within the real estate investment community. HorneRealEstateLaw.com is that website. We are today First Option Title. We are a fairly 6-month-old direct title operation today, which is awesome. And it's FirstOptionTitle.com, and that's 1ST. We are the Owner Finance Network. So the ownerfinancenetwork.com, which also has underneath it the Subject to Academy, which is all things owner financing, buying, selling, etc. And at that website, you get all the other resources out there. Yes, we're real estate investment operations under a company called S2equities.com. And just here to really work with our investors out there. Would love to help them, whatever it might be.
Sweet, man. And Scott, thank you so much for coming to the show today. Thanks for sharing and inspire our listeners, because that is definitely an inspiring story. And thank you for your piece of advice.
Well, thank you. I'm going to tell you one more real quick, and it's goatfunding.com, which is our asset-based lending, hard money lending company as well. But you're welcome. A lot of fun, man.
I was going to be all the links for those clubs we're going to put in the description of our podcast and our platform, so you guys can definitely get in touch with Scott. And this is the real grind.
It was fun. Thank you. And not only that, but not bad coffee.
And as always, thank you so much for watching the Real Grind podcast. If there's one thing that I learned from Scott today is if the opportunity presents itself, don't be afraid. There's always something new to learn out there. Learning is an option. Don't be afraid. Fail once, fail twice, fail 3 times, as many times as you need it. Just don't be afraid to take the risk and learn something new. As always, give us a thumbs up on our video. Give us a follow on Instagram. Thank you so much for supporting us. Remember, we're on YouTube, Facebook, your favorite podcast platforms. And as always, this is the real grind. Let's go.
Waking up to success. Now we're getting it started. This is the real grind. Everything you've been wanting, building an empire, no question. Talking about real estate, investing, making the millions, no stopping. While we sip on gourmet coffee. The real grind. This is the real grind. Let's go.